Hi, I'm Andrei Degler. I am the host and producer and founder of Unzip Media. Do you know how AI is being used in Hollywood already to remove F words that artists say on set? We are just about to find out in another interview that I recorded a couple of weeks ago with Tom Macaulay, my former colleague. Before we do that, however, I wanted to take a very quick minute to say thank you to all the subscribers, everyone who subscribed to our YouTube channel, the audio version of this podcast, and the newsletter at Unzip Media after the first episode. This means the world to me, and a very special thanks also goes to our paid subscribers, people who really trust so much in our ability to bring the best stories that they are actually paying for it now. Thank you so much, and we will deliver on everything that you expect from us, I promise. Now, before we dive into the interview, a very quick housekeeping note. The interview was actually filmed with 3 cameras, but one camera's footage has been lost. And because of that, if you see Tom and myself sometimes looking in weird directions, that is actually why. It is still a very enjoyable interview, and I hope that you will have something to say after you have listened to it. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the new episode of the Unzip Media podcast. Today we are going to talk about or rather about swearing on camera and the way Hollywood is dealing with that. And to discuss this, I have invited to studio Thomas Macaulay, the managing editor at The Next Web, also a former colleague whom I am missing greatly since we stopped working together a few months ago. Tom, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Always a pleasure to speak to you. Although I am feeling a little bit worse for wear because we had our team outing yesterday. Ended a bit later than anticipated, so I might be even a bit slower than normal.
Oh, okay. That's totally fine. I can speed it up in post as well if you wish. It's
sure, that would be great. Yeah,
that's all right.
Your audience might appreciate that.
So I wanted to talk about the story that you posted a couple of months ago, which went about Hollywood and swearing and all that. So, but first of all, why did you actually decide to talk about it? I don't remember you writing that much about Hollywood before. Was it your secret beat before?
No, I mean, I love movies like probably most people, but I've always been fascinated with the concept of computational creativity.
Right.
Since I was a kid, really, and just like this sort of relation between rhythms and algorithms, there was sort of, I don't know, kind of this sort of intrinsic relationship. And then when the Gen AI boom began a couple of years ago, the kind of opportunities and threats of AI to the arts world became a mainstream concern. I think a concern for people in our profession, particularly writers of any sort. But then we started to see it more with these kind of multimodal and visual AI models where they were creating content for films or pictures, music. And that was a world I hadn't really explored. And this startup, Flawless, has already been in Hollywood using AI video editing for some pretty big blockbusters. So I thought it was like a very powerful example of the sort of, the possibilities of this technology.
Interesting. So, but I think they started even before it sort of became mainstream, right?
Yeah, in fact,
interesting.
The founder, who is himself a film director, Scott Mann, he claims that it was the first ever use of Gen AI in movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it sort of came about through work on one of his own projects. So he was, he was making his own film, a fairly low budget survival thriller. And he needed a way to edit out all of those fucks, as you mentioned in the intro.
I just wonder, is it a British thing to put more into the movie than they do in Hollywood?
That's a very good question. I don't know, because I think maybe the censorship in Hollywood around swearing is probably a little bit stricter than in England.
Yeah. I would probably expect that. So let's start from the beginning. So he shot this movie which was called Fall, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's
have you watched it?
I have, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't watch.
So you knew about it before you started?
No, I watched it after finding out. Yeah, it was good. It was like it's a very low budget movie. It's basically about these two girls, best friends, who decide, kind of just for a laugh, to like climb up this abandoned tower, and then they get trapped up there. So it's a concept movie about, it's literally two girls on the top of a tower for 90 minutes.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. And I guess understandably, they swear a lot. There are a lot of fucks.
I would probably swear a lot if I were in that situation.
Yeah. And the problem that he encountered was that all of those F-bombs meant the film was headed for an R rating, which in the US like dramatically restricts the audience. Big film studio called Lionsgate wanted to pick up the movie, but they were worried that the reach would be minimized by the rating. So they needed to get it down to PG-13. And all of those F-bombs had to go. That was really the mission that became the beginnings of his company.
Interesting. And so what did he do then?
So, yeah, because it was a very low budget movie, refilming all of those shots, and there were a lot of them, and sort of putting a new dialogue would have been beyond the budget available.
Yeah.
So he, through a co-founder of Flawless, who's more of a technical man to Scott's kind of film expertise, they developed a system that does essentially AI-generated dubbing. The actors re-recorded their lines, which they could do remotely.
Right.
And then they use a lip synchronization technique to reanimate their lip movements and also their facial gestures to fit the new dialogue.
Okay, so they basically need to kind of make a map every point on the face of the actor.
Yeah, precisely. They map all the points on the face and then they convert that into a 3D model, and then the neural network sort of recreates the movements to align with the new dialogue.
Right. So this was called Deep Editor, right, initially, and then it became Flawless. Like, what was the story?
That timeline's a little bit confusing. That was called True Sync. Sync as in synchronization, and it was very successful. And it got the film the PG-13 rating that the Lionsgate wanted, and the film became a sleeper's hit. I can't remember the exact figures, but I think it was like a $3 million budget, and it made over 20. And now they're filming a sequel. And so successful was the technology that Scott and his co-founder decided to sort of expand into broader AI-generated film editing. And that became Deep Editor, which is the second big tool in his company's toolbox.
Okay, this is interesting. So, is he a director now, or is he a founder of an AI startup? Is he both? How does he see himself?
Yeah, I mean, he sees himself as both. My impression is that the startup is the bigger part of his time now. And also the rise of this coincided, in fact, as you said, it sort of predated the kind of Gen AI surge. But as it started to get big, there was also the SAG-AFTRA strike, the union for Hollywood actors. And that was a sort of, I suppose you would think on one hand it's a threat to his idea, but I think it was a big opportunity as well. Yeah,
we're gonna get to that in a minute. So,
sure.
Through this other movie, there was a heist, right?
Yes,
because this is when was just before this entire strikes and everything, and he encountered the issue with dubbing this time.
So initially that's correct. Yeah, so this was his real big break in Hollywood. It was a movie with Robert De Niro, and this was more the issue was around foreign language dubbing. I think, as probably most people have watched dubbed movies would know, the dubbed films don't necessarily capture the best acting qualities of the original performers. And that also limits the audience potentially overseas. But I think from a director's perspective, it's pretty torturous to watch the movie you've worked on for years potentially be suddenly not only the kind of the performance is transformed, but they also transform the dialogue.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah. So Scott discovered during the dubbing process for this film Heist of Robert De Niro that one of the dub versions was terrible, basically. And as a result, he sort of, again, turned to AI to do a more authentic version of the dubbing, whereby they could really map the gestures and the lip movements and then synchronize them to another language.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as someone who, I think anyone who grew up or was an adult or young adult in Ukraine in the 90s will tell you a whole lot about terrible dubbing, because we used to get all this English language and other foreign language movies, and there was literally one person who seemed to have dubbed all the movies that we had on TV.
Right. Yeah. This is something that I found.
One voice, very strange intonation, and it always sounded as if he was talking through his nose, doing this all the time.
Yeah, can imagine.
So I can imagine that a director watching something like that, or even what happens these days, which is much more high quality, of course, but still, I guess they could be tortured by the
I experienced as a viewer myself as well. I moved to Spain for a couple of years, and both my then girlfriend and I loved watching movies, but basically any foreign language film in Spain was dubbed as well, and it was excruciating at times. But then also, through working on this story primarily, I sort of also gained a newfound respect for the dubbing actors, because to make their lines map relatively closely with the actors, the original actors, they have to sort of elongate the sentence structure or contract, and it's a real skill. And then you discover that there are also actors who spend their whole careers, dubbing actors, playing one role. Like there's a Spanish Tom Cruise who's done almost every movie of his. So yeah, I sort of, although I'd find the results often quite pleasant, I do have respect for the actors.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and of course it really helps with access of a wider audience to the movies and other content. So of course there's there's a lot of reasons for that to be the case.
Sure.
So what exactly did they do? Did they found another startup? Did they extend what Flawless could do?
Yeah, so this was part of the same startup, but a separate tool. So there was one tool that was focused almost entirely on dubbing, and then they sort of expanded into film editing.
Right.
And it's sort of become a kind of whole suite of AI-based editing tools. And they're sort of expanding into Hollywood, but a lot of the Hollywood studios and the filmmakers using it don't really want to go on the record about using it, because it's still a very really controversial subject. Huh. Yeah. A couple of them have. I mean, he's told me about a bunch of them, but one was, oh my God, I forgot the name of it. Of one of the Marvel superhero movies. It'll come back to me. But I'll come back to that a bit later. But it's definitely progressing. But as I said, it's because it's still a very sensitive subject, and in Hollywood, and I think in any creative realms, they're not necessarily wanting to go on the record.
But do we know how much it's actually used? Like how many movies it's been used in, at least like sort of ballpark?
No, I'm not sure. I don't have a specific number or even a ballpark one. No.
Yeah, but I also I know that there are a whole bunch of AI-ish startups that work with Hollywood for very different things, right? So like all the audio stuff. There's a Ukrainian startup called Respeech. They've been working on Mandalorian and stuff like that. Yeah, I think you covered it as well.
Yeah,
right?
No, that's super impressive.
So it was a secret beat than Hollywood tech.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it sort of again comes back to that kind of computational creativity thing, and also feeling like somehow personally affected as a journalist, and these tools can both both inspire and terrify at the same time. Yeah, no, for sure. So I wanted to show the viewers what it's actually like, this technology. So let's look at the video for a minute, and then we'll be back after that to talk about the actual impact on the actors that the AI is having.
Now we're stuck on this stupid tower in the middle of nowhere. And I don't blame you, and now we're stuck on this stupid freaking tower in the middle of freaking nowhere. And it's all my fault. 軽蔑してるよね。仕方ないよ。Y es todo por mi culpa.
And we are back to the conversation about Hollywood and swearing on camera with Thomas Macaulay from TNW. I also wanted to ask, I forgot in the first part, how do you even know the guy? Did you know this director before you became because you started working on this one? Yeah, no, it was actually through research for another story I was working on, just a broader feature that I had in mind about the impact of AI on movies. And I came across his company through that, and just happily coincided with their plans to release this new editing AI tool, although they actually postponed release. It's out now, but I thought I could tie that in. It's a little news hook. Okay, that's a good coincidence. Yeah, but that happens quite a bit, right? When you're a journalist, I suppose. Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to talk in this part a little bit more about how the actors actually reacted to all this, and we remember that there was this big strike of this actor union, right? Guild, the right word? Yeah, officially guild. Yeah, SAG-AFTRA.
I think mixed reactions, but as far as, and compared to the other Gen AI tools, the reception for Flawless's software was far more positive. And a big reason for that is they have actually worked with SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Guild, from very early on. I mean, I think it was just like a sensible business strategy as well as an ethical one. If you can get them on side, then you're going to expand into the industry more quickly. And they basically became the first of these tools to get a sort of rubber stamp from SAG-AFTRA.
Right.
And I think a big reason to do that is they developed this sort of supplementary tool called the Artistic Rights Treasury.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, which was essentially a way of protecting the performer's original performance, and they would only make edits with the authorization of the performer. And it actually created a tool within the software whereby a request for changes would be sent direct to the actor. They could even record the new dialogue on their phone.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then like tick a consent box essentially, or decline. And that would be a sort of create a kind of consent flow before any editing was made.
And they would also be presumably compensated for this extra stuff.
Yes, yeah, precisely. So I think that was quite a clever mechanism as well. As I said, it's not just like an ethically guided decision. It's also like a good business sense.
Yeah. Because I mean, in general, you can paint a pretty dystopian picture of what this kind of technology advancement can mean for an actor, right? You can just take an actor and you can do whatever with his or her likeness. Just put like a totally different movie really together. Without them knowing.
Yeah, it's like literally putting words in their mouths, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess it sort of makes one think about the kind of like deep fake fears and propaganda and just like the kind of information landscape becoming so unreliable. But yeah, once they've got this consent workflow baked into the tool, I guess that at least allays some of the concerns.
Yeah, but this is also like a totally different big topic of whether this kind of software could be used indeed to create deep fakes, like if it came into the hands of malicious actors. That's like a great thing. It works really nice, and you can very easily take whatever celebrity or a politician and make them say whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, but you can do that now so easily. Like even just the progress over the last 2 years is, again, it's like incredible and terrifying. Like, I mean, I'm sure you remember at the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago, there were all of these fears about like deep fakes becoming this incredibly powerful propaganda tool, but they never really became a reality. They were like really crappy deep fakes.
But now we can see with the example of Flawless, for example, that you can actually make really, really good deep fakes if you wanted to.
And affordably now as well. It's not like you need just like the most high-tech software and big money to do it. It's really like affordable. And now you see this massive rise in deepfake fraud, and so that's pretty scary, as well as like the threat to actors. I think it's just the threat to the public is pretty worrying.
And so I don't want to go like very deep into that, but I cannot, of course, not ask. So what do you think of the threat of AI to journalists? Is this something you're thinking about at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it far too often, and I'm pretty convinced that some media outlets are using. I mean, I know for a fact that some are, but also some like fairly recognizable ones. It's a huge threat, and I guess trying to look at it positively, the journalism that is going to be most at threat is the really crappy journalism that just rewriting press releases, copying stories from other publications. Gen AI can already do that better probably than most humans, certainly more quickly. But original reporting, that's a totally different matter. I mean, ChatGPT isn't going to be interviewing anyone. It can dig into data, but that's limited as well. So I'm hoping that maybe it's like for quality journalism, there's still plenty of opportunities going forward. For the lower quality stuff, I think that hasn't got a future really. That's me trying to be optimistic, but I think it's sort of even for some of the high quality reporting, it's a threat, but it's also a useful tool at times. Like,
it is. It is. That's the whole problem. But I think the threat to high quality journalism comes from a bit of a different angle, just because it is so easy, and I think it's being done already quite a bit. It's so easy to just like almost like automatically set up a news website that would be taking this high quality reporting, like scrapping it, basically rewriting it, putting it out, making very little money on Google Ads, but then you do it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, and then you end up with some sort of income.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see that now. These automated web scrapers, like basically every article we write, we sort of see it published almost instantly by a bunch of other places. But I don't think they've managed to do it at the scale you're talking about. Yeah,
I think in the US they do. It has been the case already. I've heard about it a couple of times. Like people really like finding their stories, like basically AI rewritten. On these like very like no-name websites that seem to just be aggregating everything they can reach to.
Yeah, I think 404 Media did a really good investment.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Thankfully, I think we're probably, my publications is hopefully a little bit too small for it at this point. So maybe that's another way you can survive. Just don't be as conspicuous or as important as the bigger brands.
Absolutely. So, and before we finish, I just really want to, as I'm talking to many journalists, I'm really interested to learn more about the process. Like how do you work? On the example of this particular story, what was it that you thought was really interesting in it? How did you approach it? What was it like?
Yeah, I think that's just, I guess, a couple of ways I normally approach the story. One is like personal interest, when you feel a really strong connection to an issue or an individual even. And then the other one is like the broader perspective, when you feel there's something important on a societal level. I normally am drawn towards stories in those two areas, and often a blend of the two. And yeah, I mean, it can be anything that sets it off, right? It could be like something that you'd be overhear a colleague talking about, or I don't know, I've got ideas from just like conversations with my mum occasionally, just seeing something and reading get ideas from other articles all the time as well, and just try and take on stories from other people who've wrote in new directions. I think it's, in terms of like the actual, the initial idea, that sort of seed can come from anywhere really, but it's I think I'm drawn to stories that I care about. I'm not like drawn towards stories that I think will just create controversy or clicks. Maybe I'd be more successful if I was, but yeah, it's kind of personal.
I mean, fortunately, you're not being paid for traffic, so that's
not yet. Yeah.
that's a bit easier.
Yeah, true.
And you've been a technology reporter for how many years now?
9 years now. Yeah.
So what a time to be one.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, and I think the other thing I'm fascinated by technology in itself, but the fact that it touches everything. So in this case, we're talking about creativity, movies. I love sports as well, so I get to write about sports. Politics, of course. Politics, I guess, touches everything. But yeah, technology is like this incredible umbrella. Everything is technology now, and it's obviously not something that's going away. It's also extremely competitive, but endlessly fascinating.
It is so different to what it was like, I don't know, like 15 years ago when I was starting as well. It's just
you've been doing it even longer than I have.
It's such a difficult. I still remember when I was entering the university, I did my master's in journalism here in the Netherlands, and one of the questions that I was asked in the interview was, where do I go to get my news? And the expected answer was just like websites of publications, whatever they are. And I said, I normally would go like on Twitter first and like check what's there. I think I was really like that close to not getting the spot in that program, because they did not like that answer, and they thought that this is absolutely stupid, and why would anyone actually do that? And like you just go nytimes.com. That's the right answer. You don't go on Twitter. Then a few years after that, we had a conversation with with the guys who interviewed me. Then they were like, okay, now we see.
I mean, I did shorthand when I did my master's in newspaper journalism. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's something from another century, but yeah, I'm kind of like, I still love the kind of more traditional.
Can you still write shorthand?
Occasionally, yeah. I just can't do it quickly enough for it to be of any value. But I can do it as a sort of code language to myself if I wanted to.
I will probably ask you to write something in shorthand for the website just to use it somewhere. So it must be really nice.
For sure.
All right. So this is the wrap of this. And now, Tom, where can people find you to follow your work and life?
Visit thenextweb.com. We're also on all the usual social media channels, but that's another area of journalism that's changing. That's not really driving much traffic for us. But nextweb.com. We write about European tech, the whole ecosystem, focused on startups, but really we cover anything in the European space. And we're really, I think we have quite unique voices. The way we report is pretty special. So we'd love to get feedback and send me ideas as well. Thomas at thenextweb.com, always looking for tips.
I can definitely attest to the quality of your reporting. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks a lot. And good luck and hope to see you again soon.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.